At first it had no name. It was the thing itself, the vivid thing. It was his friend. On windy days it danced, demented, waving wild arms, or in the silence of evening drowsed and dreamed, swaying in the blue, the goldeny air. Even at night it did not go away. Wrapped in his truckle bed, he could hear it stirring darkly outside in the dark, all the long night long. There were others nearer to him, more vivid still than this. They came and went, talking, but they were wholly familiar, almost a part of himself, while it, steadfast and aloof, belonged to the mysterious outside, to the wind and the weather and the goldeny blue air. It was a part of the world, and yet it was his friend. "Look, Nicholas, look, see the big tree." Tree, that was its name. And also the linden. They were nice words. He had known them a long time before he knew what they meant. They did not mean themselves. They were nothing in themselves. They meant the dancing, singing thing outside, in wind, in silence, at night, in the changing air. It changed, and yet was changelessly the tree, the linden tree. That was strange. Everything had a name, but although every name was nothing without the thing named, the thing cared nothing for its name, had no need of a name, and was itself only. And then there were the names that signified no substantial thing, as linden and tree signified that dark dancer. His mother asked him, who did he love the best? Love did not dance, nor tap the window with frantic fingers. Love had no leafy arms to shake. Yet when she spoke that name that named nothing, some impalpable but real thing within him responded as if to a summons, as if it had heard its name spoken. That was very strange. He soon forgot about these enigmatic matters and learned to talk as others talked, full of conviction, unquestioningly. The sky is blue, the sun is gold, the linden tree is green, day is light, it ends, night falls, and then it is dark. You sleep, and in the morning wake again. But a day will come when you will not wake. That is death. Death is sad. Sadness is what happiness is not, and so on. How simple it all was, after all. There was no need even to think about it. He had only to be, and life would do the rest, would send day to follow day until there were no days left for him, and then he would go to heaven and be an angel. Hell was under the ground. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, bless the bed that I lie on. If I die before I wake, ask holy God my soul to take. He peered from behind clasped hands at his mother kneeling beside him in the candlelight. Under a burnished coif of coiled hair, her face was pale and still, like the face of the Madonna in the picture. Her eyes were closed, her lips moved, mouthing mutely the pious lines as he recited them aloud. When he stumbled on the hard words, she bore him up gently in a wonderfully gentle voice. He loved her the best, he said. She rocked him in her arms and sang a song. See, saw, Marjorie Daw, this little chicken got lost in the straw. He liked to lie in bed awake, listening to the furtive noises of the night all around him, the creaks and groans and abrupt muffled cracks which he imagined were the voice of the house complaining as, braced under the weight of the enormous darkness outside, it stealthily stretched and shifted the aching bones of its back. The wind sang in the chimney, the rain drummed on the roof. The linden tree tapped and tapped, tap, tap, tap. He was warm. In the room below, his mother and father were talking, telling each other of their doings that day abroad in the world. How could they be so calm and speak so softly, when surely they had such fabulous tales to recount? Their voices were like the voice of sleep itself, calling him away. There were other voices, of church bells gravely tolling the hours, of dogs that barked afar, of the river too, though that was not so much a voice as a huge, dark, liquidy, faintly frightening rushing in the darkness that was felt, not heard. All called him to sleep. He slept. But sometimes Andreas in the bed in the corner made strange noises and woke him up again. Andreas was his older brother. He had bad dreams. The children played games together. There was hide and seek and hide the linger, jackstones and giant steps, and others that had no names. Katharina, who was older than Andreas, soon came to despise such childish frivolity. Andreas, too, grew tired of play. He lived in his own silent, troubled world, from whence he rarely emerged, and when he did, it was only to pounce on them, pummeling and pinching, or twisting an arm, smiling with eyes glittering, before withdrawing again as swiftly as he had come. Barbara alone, although she was the eldest of the four, was always glad of the excuse to abandon her gawky height and chase her little brother on all fours about the floor and under tables, grinning and growling like a happy hound, all jaws and paws and raggedy fur. It was Barbara that he loved the best, really, although he did not tell anyone, even her. She was going to be a nun. She told him about God, who resembled her strangely, an amiable, loving, and sad person given to losing things and dropping things. He it was, struggling to hold aloft so much, that fumbled and let fall their mother from out his tender embrace. That was an awful day. The house seemed full of old women and the dreary sound of weeping. His father's face, usually so stern and set, was shockingly naked, all pink and grey and shiny. Even Katharina and Andreas were polite to each other. They paced about the rooms with measured tread, emulating their elders, bowing their heads and clasping their hands and speaking in soft, stiff, formal voices. It was all very alarming. His mother was laid out upon her bed, her jaw bound fast with a white rag. She was utterly, uniquely still, and seemed in this unique, utter stillness to have arrived at last at a true and total definition of what she was. Herself, her vivid self itself. Everything around her, even the living creatures coming and going, appeared vague and unfinished compared with her stark there-ness. And yet she was dead. She was no longer his mother, who was in heaven, so they told him. But if that was so, then what was this thing that remained? They took it away and buried it, and in time he forgot what it was that had puzzled him. Now his father loomed large in his life. With his wife's death he had changed, or rather the change that her departure had wrought in the life of the household left him stranded in an old, discarded world, so that he trod with clumsy feet among the family's new preoccupations like a faintly comical, faintly sinister and exasperating ghost. The other children avoided him. Only Nicholas continued willingly to seek his company, tracking to its source the dark thread of silence that his father spun out behind him in his fitful wanderings about the house. They spent long hours together, saying nothing, each hardly acknowledging the other's presence, bathing in the balm of shared solitude. But it was only in these pools of quiet that they were at ease together, and thrust into unavoidable contact elsewhere, they were as strangers. Despite the helplessness and pain of their public encounters, the father clung obstinately to his dream of a hearty man-to-man communion with his son, one that the town of Turin would recognize and approve. He explained the meaning of money. It was more than coins, oh, much more. Coins, you see, are only for poor people, simple people, and for little boys. They are only a kind of picture of the real thing. But the real thing itself you cannot see, nor picture, nor put in your pocket, and it does not jingle. When I do business with other merchants, I have no need of these silly bits of metal, and my purse may be full or empty, it makes no difference. I give my word, and that is sufficient, because my word is money. Do you see?" He did not see, and they looked at each other in silence, helplessly, baffled and inexplicably embarrassed. I have posted a link in the description box below to copies of Dr. Copernicus that are currently available on Amazon. The book is a beautiful, complex work of biographical historical fiction exploring the life of Copernicus, the famous mathematician and astronomer who created a lot of upheaval in the medieval world by posing the theory that the Earth was not the center of the universe. Copernicus proposed that instead the sun was at the center and the planets revolved around it, as opposed to the sun and the planets and the whole universe revolving around the Earth, which was the commonly held belief supported by the all-powerful church at the time. The game footage playing in the background is from the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, the remastered edition.